on behalf of Dawn, I am chairing this event. My name is Sarah Webb. I work with Trish in Halfway Up the Stairs. Trish is going to tell you about Halfway Up the Stairs in a second. And this event will be around 40 minutes. It'll finish about 5:02. Isn't that right, Aoife? So you can go back into the main room. If there's anything you want to say, ask questions, join in, please jump in during the event. We'd like it to be really, really interactive. If anyone is sitting way down the back, you can move up the front if you like, or you could stay where you are. Yeah, so just to say, I was interested in this panel in particular because my son is dyslexic, one of them, and the other fella is autistic. So I have grown up along with them, interested in this area of just including all children and all young people and all people in bookshops. Yeah, so Trish, here beside me, is the owner of Halfway Up the Stairs, which is a specialist children's bookshop in Greystones. We hold a lot of events for all kinds of customers. She's going to tell you a little bit about some of those events and how they relate to this panel in a second. Halfway Up the Stairs is the current unpost Irish Bookshop of the Year, which is pretty cool. Yeah, in case you haven't heard. And we will keep telling you for the rest of the year until November. So Adam Harris beside me here is the founder and CEO of As I Am, which is Ireland's national autism charity. And Adam founded the organisation based on his own experiences growing up on the autism spectrum. And at the moment, today, As I Am provides support to people with autism and their families, very importantly, and advocates on behalf of the community and works to support public and private sector organisations and communities in becoming inclusive and accessible. It's an amazing organisation with an amazing website, and he's going to talk about it in a second. And then Orla Carmody here. I was looking at Orla's CV and she's done lots of amazing things. So, yeah. It's been around a long time. No, Orla, no, it's not. So Orla is an author of Speak Now, Communicate Well in the Workplace. And she works with a wide range of organisations and companies. But today, she's here with us as Principal Advisor for Age Friendly Ireland's Business Recognition Programme, which she's going to talk about, which is really interesting. So just to say, the BA has a really interesting guide on their website, which is the BA Guide to Creating Inclusive Bookshops. It is slightly out of date, as they did tell me, but it's really, really useful. And I'm going to talk to you afterwards about the CBI guides, which are inclusive guides as well for booksellers and parents and librarians. The BA is committed to helping booksellers to create diverse and inclusive workplaces. So that's a really important thing to say, first of all, that they are committed to helping bookshops do that. And on this particular panel, we're going to focus on two areas because the expertise is here. We're going to focus on disability and age. Yeah, so we're going to ask these guys, who are the experts, for advice on creating inclusive bookshops. So that's everything that we're going to do this morning. And as I said, if you have any questions or anything you'd like to ask or say, please do jump in. So Adam, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell us about As I Am?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, As I Am is Ireland's autism charity, and our vision is to bring about a society in which every autistic person is accepted as they are, equal, valued and respected. I suppose over the last 20 years in Ireland, there's no question that we've become more and more aware of autism. Indeed, this is something we actually poll annually, and we know that almost everybody has heard of autism, and well over half of us can point to somebody in our lives who is autistic. Indeed, of that 50 or so percent who say that, nearly half point to someone in their own family. So we've had a huge shift in awareness, but that doesn't always follow through that there's been a shift in understanding and acceptance. I suppose for most of the history of autism, we've really focused on trying to change the individual, trying to make someone who's autistic behave like somebody who isn't autistic. And to be quite honest, that is really bad for the autistic person's mental health. And it's not really about creating that inclusive society in which everybody matters that we want to get to. So I suppose what we have seen in Ireland in recent years is a shift towards this idea of inclusion in the community. But sometimes in the context of disability, that's only understood in terms of services. So healthcare, education, and so on. What we really want to point out is that autistic people aren't just service users. They're people who want to shop. They're people who want to join sports clubs. They're people who want to eat in restaurants and drink in bars. So if we're serious about inclusion, we need to give everybody in the community the knowledge they need. We address autism predominantly as an accessibility issue as a result. And when people think about accessibility in the context of your stores, you might think about wheelchair access, you might think about ramps, but there's invisible barriers that you may not even see that can prevent autistic people having the same chance to do with communication, to do with predictability, to do with sensory aspects, and critically actually to do with the judgment and attitude of other customers and staff within the shop who are sharing the space. So we have a programme to support organisations addressing that, and that includes accreditation, where we work in partnership with organisations. People might have seen autism-friendly shopping that we've done with brands like SuperValu and Vodafone and Primark. And we also have our Autism-Friendly Towns programme, and I see Maynooth Bookshop here today, who we've done some work with in that context. Maynooth just became Ireland's newest autism-friendly town at the weekend. And that really is about supporting organisations within the community, individual businesses, to access free training and identify those small changes you can make that can make a really big difference, not from a charity point of view, but actually in terms of makes good business sense. Reducing the accessibility barriers for autistic people can help create a better operation environment for everyone.
Great. So Adam, sorry, Orla, can you give Adam that one? I very brilliantly gave Adam my one. Can I ask you, so you're walking into a bookshop, an average bookshop, from the doorway as an autistic person, what are the barriers to you entering the bookshop, browsing and picking a book? What are the barriers to you?
So the barriers start before you ever get to the door of the bookshop.
Okay.
So if you're an autistic person and you haven't been to this bookshop before, most people have that ability to predict what it's going to be like going to a bookshop, can make certain assumptions. That's not that easy for someone who's autistic. Mm-hmm. So maybe I've been to a bookshop in another town before. I expect this bookshop to be exactly the same. Okay. And maybe I just can't picture it. So I'm really anxious about what the experience is going to be like. So I'm quite stressed and on edge before I even come into the environment. So the first thing that we try and do is improve predictability. Okay. So for example, having pictures on your website that shows what the bookshop is going to look like, who the people in the bookshop look like. Yeah. While these might sound like small accommodations, they can really help reduce a person's anxiety, and they can support a family to prepare to come and shop in your store. Yeah. Once you get past that stage, in many stores there's background music. Yeah. One of the differences for people who are autistic is how we perceive the sensory environment. So again, most people can filter in and out. If you're at home tonight and you're watching TV, you won't hear cars outside on the road. If you're waiting for a friend to collect you, you'll hear every car that passes. Tune in and tune out. Harder for autistic people to do. So if I want to browse your bookshop and there's the radio on in the background, that might make for a very uncomfortable. I'm not able to engage with your stock because I'm getting too much information at once. The same may be the case for lighting. You know, I think thankfully we're moving towards softer LED lighting in these days, but there is still kind of glary fluorescent lighting in a lot of buildings. Yeah. That can be very, very overwhelming for some people. Yeah. The other barrier then, I suppose, may be in terms of communication. Okay. So we obviously, about a third of our community don't use words to communicate. Yeah. Doesn't mean the person can't read, doesn't mean the person doesn't understand, but how the person would be able to communicate with people who work in your bookstore if the people don't have the confidence. And it's small things. It's about realising that even if the person doesn't speak, it doesn't mean we don't speak to the person. It doesn't mean that we speak about the person in their presence. It doesn't mean that we don't give the person the extra time they need, because there's many ways to communicate other than words. Very interestingly, it's also about the judgment and attitude of other people. And this is what families talk to us a lot about. So maybe, you know, you bring your child out, it's been a stressful day, maybe the bus has been late, and maybe the person's preferred product in the supermarket wasn't there, and maybe increasingly the person's just getting more and more distressed. And maybe by the time they reach the bookshop, you know, that one thing will go wrong. And that maybe the layout of the bookshop has changed that day and it's not what the person's expecting. And maybe that is what leads to the person experiencing a meltdown. And to a person outside our community, autistic people don't look any different. So people will see a child lying on the floor screaming. And very often others can be quick to say, gosh, wouldn't you think that mother could just parent their child a little better, or to make assumptions? And that can be really devastating for the family, because it really can, I suppose, take away. Everyone else's day moves on, but that becomes the focal point of the day. The British Library Service has done really good work around accessibility, and we've actually done a lot with various library services around the country. Now, you think about a library, a bit like a bookshop, there's lots going for it in terms of being autism friendly. It has materials in it that it might align to people's interests.
Quiet.
It should be quiet. It should be structured. But the irony is not everybody in our community can be quiet. So they have a very simple poster in libraries, and we've brought it to some here in Ireland, that actually says, we're an autism-friendly library. Yeah. Some of our customers might make noises. For more information, ask at the counter. And it's a kind of passive-aggressive way of just encouraging other people to think and can make such a difference in making people feel welcome.
Yeah. Adam, that's amazing. I could talk to you all day, but we'll move on to Orla. Orla, can you tell us a little bit about your organisation and this particular project, and then tell us maybe about the barriers for an older person entering a bookshop?
Well, to put it in context, I'll start by telling you that I was reading the Booker Prize winner, as you do, Prophet Song there a couple of weeks ago. And of course, he's a wonderful writer and his use of language is incredible. But there was like a little bee sting throughout the book, annoying me every time it popped up. And it was the word elderly. Nobody has told Paul that older people want to be called older people. They no longer want to be called elderly. And if you open any paper, it'll be elderly man knocked down in Carlo last night or whatever. Why do we keep using this word? The age-friendly movement has come out of the World Health Organization in response to the ageing demographic. As we know, it's all over the world. The world is really ageing very rapidly. Yeah. For the first time in our history on this planet, in about 10 years' time, there will be physically more people over the age of 55 on the planet than there will be young people and babies under the age of 15. That is extraordinary when we think about it. It's as big as climate change. And the whole purpose of the age-friendly movement is to make every town, village, community a great place in which to grow old. In Ireland, the organisation is going now about 12 years. It was run in a sort of a philanthropic way originally. It was funded by Chuck Feeney, who recently passed, the wonderful philanthropist. But then it became embedded in the local authority. So there's now an age-friendly programme manager in all 31 local authority areas in the country. Yeah. We were the first country in the world to achieve that status, which was a very big thing. So the World Health Organization stays in constant touch with us. They kind of think we're the poster child for the age-friendly movement, and all we see is all the things we haven't achieved yet, of course. We're very hard on ourselves. But the whole age-friendly movement is right across housing, the library service, healthcare, transport, many, many, many aspects. The place I work with is with the business community, and I'm the age-friendly advisor to the age-friendly movement. I'm external to it. I'm not a local authority staff member myself. I'm a consultant, but I work with them in advising on the business community. And I've reached out to businesses all over the country, large and small, and asked them to do our training and become an age-friendly business and achieve the age-friendly charter. And it very much aligns with what Adam has said. It's very much about looking around your premises and having a little chat with your older customers and saying to them, are we doing enough for you? Is there anything else we can do to make this place more comfortable for you, a place you'd like to visit, a place you'd like to frequent? And the sort of return on investment, to go into the sort of the crassly commercial, which of course you all have to keep your shutters up and your lights on at all costs. Older people control about 50% of all consumer spending in the Western world, which is, again, really quite extraordinary. And even larger percentages in home care, food, clothing, leisure activities, travel. So there's a lot of areas where older people control a lot of the spend. And I mean, I know there's a lot of older people who don't have financial security, but on the other hand, there are an awful lot who do, simply because, the kids are off the payroll, the mortgage is finally paid. I have 4 young adults who are finally off the payroll. You don't know how happy I am about that. But, you do have a kind of a discretionary spend in a lot of cases. And that's why it behoves you to actually, open your doors to the older community, because it's the right thing to do, but because it's good business practice for you. And again, what do we do? Well, we offer a 2-hour online training for a business champion from your business. Doesn't have to be the owner or the manager. It can be any member of staff who might like to do this. We'll do it online. We'll do it at a time that suits you in the evening after the stores are closed, if that's what you'd prefer. Love to do, especially for booksellers, because it's such a wonderful area for older people to actually engage with and to stay active and part of their communities. After you've done the 2-hour training, and there's no cost, by the way, my cost for delivering the training is covered by Age Friendly Ireland. You go back, as I've said, you consult with your customers, you have a look around, you look at your signage, signage? Is it clear enough? Is it big enough? You look at obstructions when books are being unpacked. Are they put away quickly and off the aisles? The noise levels, exactly as Adam was talking about. Is that music very loud and distracting, or is it pleasant and quiet? Lots of little simple things you can do. Somebody said, your bookstore might be up a stairs. Well, a lot of older people, thankfully, are fit and healthy and well and can climb that stairs. But you know what they might need at the top of it? They might need a chair. Just put the chair in the right place. And it might be a chair with arms, because again, older people will tell you they love a chair with arms because they use the leverage to get out of it. It might be a little water fountain because you'd love a sup of water after climbing that stairs. It might be a good grab rail so that they're safe. So there's lots of things you can do, even if you can't afford the infrastructural change of putting in a lift. Sometimes those sort of big decisions are above our pay grade and we can't make those changes. But all of the attitudinal changes, the eye contact, a smile, a welcome. Again, older people will tell us that the one thing they find worrying is that thing of somehow being less relevant or less important, or kind of dismissed as a bit of a bother because, you can't get your wallet out of your bag as quickly as you used to be able to. You can't get that credit card to hand as quickly as you could, or indeed remember the credit card number, or whatever it might be. So it's all of those attitudinal things, and the training that we offer is wonderful because it's just good customer service. It's just common sense. It would cover a lot of the areas that you'd be so familiar with, Adam. And it's really useful. As I said, we'd love to organise that for you if it's something you'd be interested in following up on.
I'm definitely going to do that.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful.
We'll sign up. Sounds amazing.
Good.
I don't know about you guys, but we get a lot of grannies and grandfathers and uncles and great uncles, and we love spending time with them. It's really important.
And isn't it wonderful that they bring the children in and they start them on the reading journey, and that's very much the library. We've done a lot of work with the credit union movement, and it's the same, because they say it's always the grandparent who brings the child in, put the communion money in there, open up the account, start saving. It's a wonderful, that intergenerational piece is very strong. Yeah.
And then I'm going to move to Trish in a second, but just Adam, just before I move on to the bookshop side of things, can I ask you, so Orla was talking about the 2-hour online training, which makes it very accessible. Is there a similar, how long is the training to be accredited with As I Am?
Yeah, so I think there's different options that we provide. So if you're in an autism-friendly town, you can become an autism-friendly champion. We have about 20 committees across the country. That includes Dublin City being the most recent one, striving to become the first capital city in the world. We've Waterford, and then we've quite a number of towns right across the country. So if you're in one of those communities that has an autism-friendly town committee, you can access an autism-friendly champion training for free. That is in approximately 90 minutes. And they are delivered in a variety of formats, online. There's a pre-prepared package and in person. So there's options for business owners.
Adam, is there a list of the autism-friendly towns on your website?
There is indeed. And indeed, then we have a training team full-time that can work to a business owner's preferences. So whether that's you want to put on a bespoke training, whether that's you want to achieve an accreditation, perhaps if you're a bigger bookseller. And I suppose that's something that we would kind of craft a proposal based on the individual organisation.
Yeah, so another thing that's really open and accessible, and there's no charge for this.
So not for the autism-friendly towns. For our accreditation process, there is some charges, but we can adjust that based on the needs of the business.
Brilliant. Okay. Trish, so I know quite a bit about what we do to make, but can I have that one, Adam? Thank you. I'm going to ask you, Trish, what do you do to try and ensure, what did you do from the very beginning, setting up the shop, to try and ensure that it included everyone?
So our mission that I came up with before I opened the shop was that we would be able to find the right book for every child, regardless of their need, ability or circumstance. And that was really important, that I think books are a way that children can see themselves reflected, and by us, by having a team of very passionate booksellers who, devote a lot of their time to reading all sorts of books and sharing their knowledge with each other, means that if a child comes in, is looking for something specific, and, it could be to deal with a specific circumstance like a bereavement, or it could be somebody who has a disability, or somebody who's dyslexic, or, whatever it may be, that we will have the knowledge to be able to find the right type of book for them. And if we can't, we will find a way. There's all these fantastic reading guides from Children's Books Ireland. So for me, it was really important, because as an exclusive or a specialist children's bookshop, that, you know, we just wanted to be able to provide that service to everybody. So, I mean, from the beginning, I think I spoke to somebody in As I Am to see what we could do to make the shop welcoming for autistic children and their families. We every aspect of inclusion we try to consider. So, for example, things like, we have a lot of dyslexic-friendly books, and we put a little white sticker on the spine of them all. So, you know, it's very easy for somebody who is dyslexic to find a book that might suit them without having to make a big song and dance about it. You know, they're included in with all the other books. Yeah.
What about the doorway as well, Trish, when you were looking for a premises? Because obviously to make somewhere wheelchair accessible, you also make it buggy accessible.
It has to pass the double buggy test. Because if you can get a double buggy through the shop, you can get a wheelchair through the shop, you know. Yeah. So again, it's about making it accessible. It's about also having the space being clear. I was very, very keen not to clutter up the space. So we don't have many spinners. We keep the shop, the middle of the shop entirely clear. So anybody can get around easily and find things easily.
Which is really important for me because I'm incredibly clumsy, as Trish will tell you. If there's a box, but if there's a box to be fallen over, I will fall over it. So it helps me too.
No, I mean, obviously there are times where there can be clutter, and, you know, we're a working bookshop, but it is important that it is accessible for everybody, you know, and it is welcoming. It's about making it welcoming. It's about that everybody would feel that it's somewhere that they are.
Yeah.
You know,
and then, Trish, do you want to talk a little bit about a couple of the events that we try and do?
Yeah, so, you know, obviously we run an awful lot of events with Sarah as the events manager. We've run a few, the relaxed events we had one with Aoife Dooley, which was absolutely brilliant, because Aoife, as an autistic woman, was... Oh my God, the children were... And she was celebrating it. She was celebrating her and their autism, you know, and it was just to make them proud and happy, and the reaction that we had was so lovely. Yeah. So we did a lot of work preparing for that, and we put together a document that we were able to send out to the families. Social story, that we were able to send out to the families in advance to tell them.
We had our lovely photos.
Yeah, exactly. It's like as Adam said, you know, to
here
just...
Is Sarah, here is Trish.
And this is what the shop looks like, and this is what's going to happen, and, you know, that everybody is welcome to get up and walk around, or, you know, that it... You know, just to give everybody an idea of what was going to happen. We had a great event with Alan Nolan as well, and he works with the AAA Alliance, and so a lot of the kids from that group came along, and they were great. And we'll be doing more events like that in the future,
Yeah. And if you want to ask either myself or Trish or Adam or Orla, I've loads more questions, guys, but I think there might be particular questions you guys have. So does anyone want to ask anything now?
I have one quick one straight away, and it actually comes from, Sarah, what you read out at the start about the BA thing. It just made me think, I suppose, before we sat down and when we were talking, we're thinking about the customer facing, which is super important, but actually the BA statement is about as workplaces as well. So actually, would either of you or both of you speak about
that was my next question.
accessible for an autistic staff member or an older staff member?
This is really important because within the autism community, somewhere between 80 and 85% of people are unemployed or underemployed. And there's a whole host of reasons why bookshops, I think, can play an important role in that. Just to give you one very simple example, many people within our community need to work somewhere maybe within 15 minutes of their home. Many people can't drive for coordination reasons. Public transport can be stressful. So obviously we have bookshops in every community, so that's straight away an advantage. When we talk about autism unemployment, why are autistic people unemployed? Well, I think first and foremost, I obviously spend most of my day designing things that are autism friendly. If I was asked to design something that isn't autism friendly, I'd design the typical interview, because it's about, you know, answering abstract questions, dealing with the unknown and building rapport with strangers. So it's not going to go very well for many people in our community. So it is about trying to remove that pressure from the process. It's about actually looking at ability to do the task as opposed to ability to communicate the task. What I also think is important is, you know, like, for example, we know many members of our community work within library services. So there is, I think, transferable skill sets there that would suggest that a bookshop could be a very welcoming environment. The final point I'll make is there's many people within our community who, with those small accommodations at interview stage, you know, those reasonable accommodations during the course of their working life, it might be that, for example, the person wears ear defenders, just for argument's sake, because of noise levels, who can do a full-time job. But actually, if we're really serious about addressing autism unemployment, we need to actually understand for some people it will never be about the money. These are people who a full-time job would be too exhausting. So it might be that someone wants to work half a day a week doing a very particular task. Maybe, for example, it's putting books on shelves. So it is actually about, we need a much more wider range of opportunities. And I think local businesses can play an important role in that. Organisations like As I Am support businesses that want to recruit from our community. This year we're running career clinics across the country that will work with 400 autistic adults. So we'll have lots of people we're trying to get jobs for. And critically, and people don't know this, there is substantial incentives from the government to hire people from within our community that aren't understood. And to just give you one example, if you hire somebody, I think it's now for more than, is it 15 or 18 hours, the state will refund you, it's over €6 an hour. So, there's a recognition that there is maybe some planning work done, some training needed to be considered. However, the state will provide that support in return. And I think when we're talking to the big multinationals, that's not much of an incentive. But I think for small businesses, it's an important incentive to bear in mind as well. So if people want to learn more, they can get in touch with us.
Brilliant. I think there's definitely a role for like goods in, and there's so many. We do subscriptions, so packing, wrapping. There's loads of roles, yeah. Voilà.
Just to chip into that, a number of years ago, Adam invited me to facilitate the development of his workplace, his autism-friendly workplace. And it was so interesting, and I took everything I learned and it has been fed right back into Age-Friendly Ireland. And we are now absolutely looking at an age-friendly workplace because, interestingly, all of the work I've done, as you've said, has been customer-focused. It's been the Age-Friendly Business Recognition Programme, and you get the decal for your door saying we're an age-friendly business, and you have your charter up on the wall saying that you have a commitment to age-friendly business and 2 or 3 whatever changes you're going to put in place to achieve your charter. And you could be the very same business that is discriminating against older people within your own company and not realising it. And like, I've worked with major financial institutions and insurance companies and all of those big ones on the customer focused piece. And I'm quite sure they're the person, the very, very business that's having a conversation with somebody at 55 this morning saying, are you thinking of taking the package yourself? And, completely discriminating against the workplace. So we really need to look at that, and we're looking for funding. We're hounding the Minister for funding to develop an age-friendly workplace programme. So it is very, very necessary. Just to go back to something Trish said as well about the design for inclusion, which is so interesting. If you design for the young, you exclude the old, but if you design for the old, you include everybody. So exactly back to what I was saying about those wide aisles or the wider door or the easier to open door, whatever it might be in the design of the environment. Obviously, if it suits an older person, well, then it also suits the parent pushing the buggy, and it also suits the chap who broke his leg playing football last Saturday. So, inclusion means exactly that. It means inclusion. And one of the things we do in Age Friendly around the towns and the regions that have become age friendly, we do a walkability study. So you ask the parents with the buggies, the people in wheelchairs, the people on crutches, anybody who has any accessibility issues, and they do a walkability of the town or the shopping centre or whatever the environment might be to spot the barriers and to spot the obstructions. And it's there's one going on today in Drogheda in Louth. It's actually happening as we speak, and it's just very interesting that the feedback from the community on what the obstructions are to get them out of the way. But as you say, there is so much more. There's the physical side of it, but also there's the attitudinal side, and the attitudinal side there's no excuse for, because it doesn't cost anything. It's simple training, it's simple awareness raising for your staff members, that they actually know how to spot somebody who is older or somebody who might have sensory issues, and without being in any way patronising, to just do a couple of very simple things that just make the whole experience so much easier for everybody. And that's very much an awareness piece. And as I said, it's just good customer service. So it's good training in any event, whatever way it works.
Brilliant. Trish, do you want to talk briefly just about how booksellers might be able to include different people in the workplace? I know we were talking about transition year students and, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so, as you might know, our demographic is quite particular. We're quite a homogenous group of women in their 50s. But we do have a transition year programme, so we take a transition year student once a month. And we have found that, some of the people that have come along we've had trans kids, we've had autistic kids, and it's been really, really nice to be able to include them and to give them that experience in the shop. So whereas our team, as I said, we're one particular demographic, but we can share the workspace and hopefully, in the future be able to bring more more diversity into the team themselves. But yeah, there's lots we can all do in that. Yeah.
Brilliant. We've covered pretty much everything. There's loads more questions I had on my list. But does anyone, we have about 5 minutes left, would anyone like to ask Adam and Orla anything? Are you happy out? Okay, I'll keep going then. So are there any small changes? What if you could ask people to do one thing? Obviously, you'd love to encourage them to do your course and get more involved. But if you could ask them to do one thing, Orla, what would that be? Bookshops.
I'd say when you go back to the bookshop, look around it with kind of fresh eyes. Just look around it and see what you see. You know, for example, posters or signs on the wall. Sometimes people who design posters think capitals, big shouty capitals are easy to read. And actually, no, our brain likes uppercase and lowercase. You probably all know that as writers and publishers and people in the book industry. Or sometimes there's lots of italics and it kind of blurs. Or sometimes, you know, we can't find the thing we're looking for and we just need a bit of help. You know, one of the simple changes some of the businesses have put in place, and it is so easy. They keep a box of reading glasses behind the counter, +1, +2, +3. If you forget your glasses, borrow a pair, sanitize them, back in the box, ready for the next customer. Little things like that can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, and in a similar vein, I suppose, that depending on the size of the store, there's different things that you can do. So, for example, you know, in some instances, it might be putting a quiet corner somewhere in the place where people can get a little bit away from the crowd, enjoy their book, sit on a beanbag. It might be a case that there's a time of the week in which you reduce lighting and turn off background music. Some bookshops that might be a smaller space we've done sensory boxes with, so where a person has access to ear defenders or has access to tinted glasses should they need them because of the environment. But if I was to say one thing, I think the best thing that you could do, and I think it picks up on a point Trish has already made, is reach out to your local support group. There is an autism support group in more or less every community, and ask them. Because I think very often when we do these accessibility things, we don't actually ask the end user what would be helpful. We address problems that don't exist. So, you know, pick up the phone, reach out to your community. Again, it's 1 in 27 people in your community. That's before we consider family members. It's a worthwhile phone call. Find out what that change is that could make a difference.
Yeah. And Orla was talking just about the finances. Orla, you were explaining how 50% of our sales will come from older people. Autistic people buy books too.
Not only that, if autistic people have special interests and if you can align with them, it's very lucrative. Exactly.
We have a young man who comes in and he has every single Dog Man, but he'll only buy the paperbacks, interestingly. Yeah, so yeah, absolutely. If you can tap into that special interest.
And niche topics, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask?
Might it be possible for the BA to organise the training so we can, like, with Orla, and do the one session that we can all sign into as opposed to everybody having to do it individually? Would that make more sense?
Super.
It's a nice idea.
Super.
Great idea.
I'll connect back up with Dawn after this and maybe organise one, and we'll just pick a time that suits people.
There's no point in 20 people if one session everybody can
Absolutely.
sign
And
in.
it's lovely doing it in a group, and it's lovely doing it with a group of your peers, because you learn as much from each other as you learn from me, and share experience, which is really, really, really positive.
And the posters, Adam, that you were talking about, are they available?
So that's something that we've done with library services as part of their accreditation, but it is as simple as what I've described. It's really about the wording as opposed to any particular.
Because I don't want to insult somebody by putting up the wrong poster.
Totally,
But
exactly.
Get the wording right on it. I have to put up a poster, but I don't get the wording wrong.
Yeah, well, that's certainly something we can discuss after today. No problem at all. Absolutely.
These guys are amazing, because I remember when I was starting out doing relaxed events, and, you know, people call them different things, but they just said, look, we don't really mind what you call them as long as you do them. That was, you know, to try, to see what you can do. So they're amazing. You can ring them up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and just ask for advice on things like wording. And
So we have an autism initiative down the road from us.
Brilliant.
A range of teenagers in with minders a lot, and we will get every what's the word I'm looking for? Symptom, I suppose, without meaning to.
Sure.
So some are shouting with their hands over their ears, and some are really quiet and asking everybody in the shop what their name is, and introduce themselves to everybody. And some customers react in some way, and other customers react
in another way.
And I hate having to explain they're from.
Yes.
You shouldn't have to explain.
No.
You shouldn't have to say anything.
No.
The minute you say it, people go, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
If you have it up, that people can see it
And begin to think.
Just think about it then. Just getting, talking about it.
And of course, the other thing that perhaps booksellers will come across is there is increasingly a variety of tools people are using in the community to ask for support, and that might be a family that struggles with queuing, for example. It might be someone who, should they become distressed, maybe they become nonverbal, for example. So some people will use. We have an autism ID card. We're issuing about 400 or 500 of those a month at the moment. So many people. There's the sunflower lanyard, the jam card, a variety of different tools, but it's important to have, they are a visual reminder within the space. Again, if we lived in an ideal world, people wouldn't have to wear them, but it gives a lot of people confidence to have access to them. So there's something to have an awareness of as well.
Yeah. I'm afraid we have to finish up now. It's been really, and that was a brilliant point. Really, really good. And Orla and Adam and their organisations are really open to helping, and I think that idea about gathering everyone together is a brilliant idea. Yeah. So thank you so much to Orla and Adam and to Trish for their expertise. It's an ongoing conversation I think we should try and have regularly, not just once. Yeah. So, but thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening. Oh yes, and just to say there are copies, there's large format ones and small format of the CBI guide, which is called Free to Be Me, which is Diversity, Inclusion and Representation Reading Guide. And they're excellent, really good to have beside the till. So thank you very much, and thank you to Aoife, Dawn and everyone. Thank you.